the underestimated target admiral, Dex Corvallis, stood before the massive holographic display in the war room of the Krellian flagship Dominator. The projection showed a small blue-green world spinning peacefully in the darkness of space. Earth, as the inhabitants called it, looked insignificant compared to the conquered worlds that now bore the Krellian banner. "Tell me about these humans again," Admiral Corvallis commanded, his forearms crossed behind his back. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the ship's harsh lighting, and his compound eyes reflected the star charts surrounding them. Commander Vex, a younger Krellian with nervous energy, consulted his datapad. "They call themselves humans, sir. Bipedal mammals, relatively short lifespan. Our scouts report they're still using chemical propulsion for most of their spacecraft. Their weapons appear to be nuclear-based, very primitive by our standards." Admiral Corvallis clicked his mandibles in what passed for Krellian laughter. "Nuclear weapons? How quaint. We abandoned such crude technology 5 centuries ago." He gestured to the tactical display showing their fleet. 47 warships, each equipped with plasma cannons that can crack continents. Their antimatter cores could power their entire world for decades. "Sir," another officer interrupted, "our long-range sensors detect some orbital installations around their planet. Basic communication satellites and what appear to be research stations. Nothing that poses a threat to our fleet." The Admiral nodded approvingly. This conquest would be swift and decisive, like all the others. The Krellian dominion had expanded across 17 star systems, absorbing 12 different species into their empire. Most surrendered after a simple demonstration of power. The few that resisted were quickly overwhelmed by superior technology and ruthless efficiency. "Prepare the standard ultimatum," Admiral Corvallis ordered. "We'll give them one chance to surrender peacefully. If they refuse, we'll eliminate their 3 largest population centers. That usually convinces the survivors to see reason." Light years away, Captain Sarah Chen floated in the observation deck of Titan Research Station, watching Saturn's rings drift slowly past the reinforced windows. To any observer, she appeared to be a simple planetary scientist studying the gas. Giants, moons. The small station looked like exactly what it claimed to be, a remote research outpost, studying atmospheric dynamics and ring particle composition. "Captain," came a voice through her encrypted implant, "we've got movement in the outer system, Krellian fleet, just like the simulations predicted." Sarah smiled, though her expression remained carefully neutral. "How many ships, Lieutenant?" Morrison, 47 warships, sir. Heavy cruiser configuration, standard Krellian intimidation formation. "Perfect," Sarah whispered. "Signal Earth Command. Tell them Operation Sleeping Dragon is now active, and Morrison, make sure our friends get a good look at our primitive defenses." Down on Earth, Commander Marcus Webb stood in what appeared to be a simple metropolitan traffic control center. Banks of monitors showed traffic flows, emergency services, and city infrastructure management. To casual observers, it looked like any other municipal operations center. In reality, it was the coordination hub for the most sophisticated deception in human history. "Status report," Marcus said calmly, sipping coffee from a mug that read "World's Greatest Dad." "All holographic projectors are online," reported Dr. Alina Vasquez, the lead engineer for Project Mirage. "We can simulate complete city destruction with 99% visual accuracy. The thermal blooms will register on their sensors exactly like plasma bombardment. And the evacuation tunnels. Every major city has been connected to the underground networks for 30 years. We can move 8 million people in under 4 hours if needed. The aliens will be shooting at empty buildings and carefully placed pyrotechnics. Marcus nodded. Humanity had been preparing for this day since the first deep space telescopes detected signs of advanced civilizations. While they appeared to be taking their first tentative steps into space, humans had actually been building a hidden infrastructure across the solar system for over a century. The Krellian fleet approached Earth's orbital sphere, their massive ships casting shadows across the planet's surface. Admiral Corvallis opened a communication channel to the planet below. Inhabitants of Earth, his voice boomed across every radio frequency. I am Admiral Vex Corvallis of the Krellian Dominion. Your world now belongs to our empire. Surrender immediately and accept integration into our civilization, or face the consequences of resistance. The response came from someone identifying herself as President Maria Santos. Unknown vessels, you have entered our solar system without permission. We demand that you state your intentions and withdraw immediately. Admiral Corvallis clicked his mandibles in amusement. These creatures actually think they can make demands of us. How entertaining. He turned to his weapons officer. Prepare for demonstration bombardment. Target their 3 largest population centers. Make it visible from orbit. Sir, the weapons officer replied, plasma cannons are charged and ready. Targeting New Geneva, Neo-Tokyo, and New Lagos. On Earth, the evacuation had been proceeding smoothly for hours. What the Krellians didn't know was that their surprise attack had been detected when their ships were still 3 light-years away. Advanced human sensors, disguised as astronomical research equipment, had been tracking the fleet's approach and composition. All citizens are safely underground, Dr. Vasquez reported. Activating holographic defense grid now. The 3 targeted cities shimmered slightly, their skylines becoming elaborate 3-dimensional illusions projected from hidden emitters. The real populations were safe in massive underground complexes that had been built over decades, connected by high-speed transportation networks that could evacuate entire metropolitan areas in hours. Firing now, announced the Krellian weapons officer. Brilliant beams of superheated plasma lanced down from the alien ships, striking the 3 cities with devastating force. The holographic projections collapsed in spectacular explosions, creating fireballs that rose thousands of feet into the atmosphere. To the Krellians watching from orbit, it appeared that millions of humans had been vaporized in seconds. Excellent, Admiral Corvallis said with satisfaction. Now they'll understand the futility of resistance. Open another channel to their leadership. But the response that came back was not what he expected. President Santos's voice was calm, almost amused. Admiral Corvallis, you've just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. You wanted to see what humanity is capable of when threatened. Now you're going to learn. Admiral Corvallis frowned, his compound eyes reflecting confusion. What does she mean by that? Before anyone could answer, the Krellian sensor operator's voice cracked with alarm. Sir, I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. Ships are decloaking ... everywhere. The tactical display erupted with new contacts. Ships were rising from the lunar surface, emerging from asteroid mining operations, and dropping their stealth fields in the space around Jupiter and Saturn. What had appeared to be a primitive civilization with a few orbital research stations was revealing itself as a spacefaring empire with technology the Krellians had never encountered. Impossible, Admiral Corvallis breathed. Our intelligence showed they were centuries behind us technologically. Captain Sarah Chen's voice came through the communication system, broadcast from the Titan research station. Your intelligence was wrong, Admiral. We've been spacefaring for over 200 years. We just preferred to let you think we were primitive. On the main display, the research station was transforming before their eyes. Hidden panels slid away to reveal weapon systems that hummed with energy signatures unlike anything in the Krellian database. What had appeared to be a small scientific outpost was actually a massive warship disguised as civilian infrastructure. You see, Admiral, Captain Chen continued, we've been watching your species for decades. We know about your expansion pattern, your military tactics, your psychological warfare techniques. We've been preparing for this meeting for a very long time. The Krellian fleet found themselves surrounded by human ships that had been hiding in plain sight. Mining vessels revealed themselves as heavily armed battleships. Communication satellites unfolded into weapon platforms. Research stations dropped their civilian disguises to show their true nature as fortified military installations. How many ships do they have? Admiral Corvallis demanded. I'm counting. Over 300 vessels, sir. And they're all using technology I don't recognize. Their energy signatures are completely alien to our databases. Commander Marcus Webb's voice joined the conversation from Earth. We call this Operation Sleeping Dragon, Admiral. You wanted to wake the dragon. Now you get to see what happens when humanity stops pretending to be weak. The human fleet began to move with coordinated precision. Their ships were sleek and dark, shaped like predators moving through the void. They didn't attack immediately, simply took positions that made it clear the Krellian fleet was completely surrounded and outgunned. Admiral, Captain Chen said, we're going to give you the same choice you gave us. Surrender now, and we'll discuss terms. Resist, and we'll show you why attacking Earth was the worst decision in your species' history. Admiral Corvallis stared at the tactical display, his mind racing. In the span of minutes, his overwhelming advantage had vanished. The primitive civilization he'd come to conquer had revealed itself as a sophisticated military power that had been setting a trap for decades. Sir, Sub-Commander, Vex whispered, what are your orders? The Admiral looked at the human ships surrounding his fleet, their weapons powered but not yet firing. These creatures had somehow managed to fool the entire Krellian intelligence network. They'd allowed themselves to appear weak while building a military force that dwarfed anything the Dominion had ever encountered. Signal the fleet, he said slowly. All ships, prepare for. I wouldn't do that if I were you, Captain Chen interrupted. We've been tracking your fleet since you entered our sensor range 3 weeks ago. We know exactly how many ships you have, what weapons you carry, and how your tactics work. We've had plenty of time to prepare countermeasures. Admiral Corvallis felt something he hadn't experienced in decades of conquest, genuine fear. These humans had played a game of deception so sophisticated that his entire species had been fooled. Now they were revealing their true nature. And he was beginning to understand that the hunter had become the hunted asterisk. The hunted becomes the hunted. Silence in the Krellian command center was deafening. Admiral Corvallis watched the tactical display with growing horror as more human ships continued to appear throughout the solar system. Each vessel that decloaked revealed technology that shouldn't exist, energy signatures that violated everything. The Krellians thought they knew about physics. Analysis, he barked at his science officer. The younger Krellian's voice trembled as he spoke. Sir, their ships appear to be using some form of quantum manipulation technology. Their hulls are adapting to our sensor sweeps in real time. It's like there exists in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. Captain Sarah Chun's image appeared on the main communication screen. She was human, certainly, but there was something in her eyes that made Admiral Corvallis's chitinous skin crawl. Intelligence, ancient, patient intelligence. "Admiral," she said with disturbing calm, "let me tell you what's really happening here. 300 years ago, our deep space telescopes detected the expansion of your empire. We watched you conquer system after system, always following the same pattern: overwhelming force, brutal demonstration, then absorption of the survivors." The holographic display behind her shifted, showing star charts that mapped Krellian expansion over centuries. "We realized it was only a matter of time before you found us. So we made a choice. We would prepare, but we would also hide. We became the bait in our own trap." Admiral Corvallis found his voice. "Impossible. Our scouts surveyed your system multiple times. You have basic chemical rockets, primitive nuclear weapons. What our scouts saw was exactly what we wanted them to see." Commander Marcus Webb interrupted, his image joining the communication. Every rocket launch, every nuclear test, every primitive satellite was carefully choreographed. "We've been performing for your surveillance for decades." The truth was beginning to dawn on the Krellian admiral. "The cities we destroyed, holograms, and pyrotechnics," Dr. Alina Vasquez said as her image appeared alongside the others. "We evacuated those populations hours before your attack. What you obliterated were empty buildings and light shows. Very convincing light shows, but ultimately harmless. You let us attack first," Admiral Corvallis realized. "You sacrificed your own cities too." "We sacrificed nothing," Captain Chen corrected. "We created a perfect justification for what comes. Next, you see, Admiral, attacking Earth wasn't just a military mistake. It was a moral one. You've given us the legal and ethical right to respond with overwhelming force." On the tactical display, the human fleet began to move. Their ships flowed through space like a coordinated organism, each vessel perfectly positioned to maximize their advantage. The Krellian fleet, designed for intimidation and overwhelming attack, found themselves completely outmaneuvered. "Sir," the Krellian weapons officer reported, "should we return fire?" "Wait," Admiral Corvallis commanded. Something about the humans' behavior suggested they weren't finished talking. In his experience, species that wanted to destroy you didn't usually explain their superiority first. Lieutenant Commander Ryo Nakamura's fighter appeared on the display, a sleek vessel that seemed to bend light around its edges. "Admiral, my name is Ryo Nakamura. I'm going to demonstrate something for you." The human fighter approached the Krellian flagship at impossible speed, moving in ways that defied physics. It passed through the ship's defensive fields like they didn't exist, performed maneuvers that should have torn it apart, and then returned to its original position, all without triggering a single alarm on the Krellian sensors. "How subtimal," Vex whispered. "Quantum phase manipulation," Rio explained cheerfully. "We exist in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. Your weapons can't hit us because we're not entirely in the same reality as you are." Fun, right? General Patricia Hawkes materialized in the communication array, her uniform bearing insignia that Admiral Corvallis didn't recognize. "Admiral, I command the human deep space fleet. What you're seeing here is just our local defense force. Our real military power is ... elsewhere." The display shifted to show images from across the galaxy. Human ships were emerging from hiding places throughout Krellian space. They had been there all along, invisible and patient, watching and learning. "You're not just surrounded here," General Hawkes continued. you're surrounded everywhere. Every world in your empire, every trade route, every military installation. Been there, watching, preparing. Admiral Corvallis felt his legs give out. He collapsed into his command chair, his compound eyes reflecting the tactical display that showed his empire's complete vulnerability. How long have we been inside your territory? Captain Chen asked. About 50 years. We've been very patient, Admiral. We learned your language, studied your culture, mapped your infrastructure. We even placed some of our people in your government and military. The communication array expanded to show a Krellian officer standing in what appeared to be the Dominion's High Command Center. But as they watched, the figure's appearance shifted, revealing a human operative who had been living among them for decades. Agent Thompson has been your supply logistics coordinator for 15 years, General Hawkes explained. He's been very helpful in identifying the weak points in your military infrastructure. This is impossible, Admiral Corvallis protested. The genetic differences alone are easily overcome with the right technology, Agent Thompson said. From the Krellian Command Center, we've been preparing for this conversation for a very long time, Admiral. Every detail has been planned, every contingency considered. The human fleet began to demonstrate their capabilities. Their weapons weren't the crude plasma cannons or nuclear devices the Krellians expected. Instead, they projected fields that simply shut down Krellian technology. Ship after ship in the alien fleet found their systems failing, their weapons powering down, their engines sputtering to a halt. We're not going to destroy you, Captain Chen explained. That would be wasteful. Instead, we're going to send you home with a message for your high command. Admiral Corvallis watched helplessly as his flagship systems came back online, but under human control. His ship was moving, turning away from Earth and toward the edge of the solar system. Around him, the surviving vessels of his fleet were being similarly controlled. The message is simple, General Hawkes said. Earth is off limits. Human space is off limits. Any Krellian ship that enters our territory will be detained, its crew relocated to comfortable exile, and its technology studied. This is not a negotiation. The Krellian fleet was being escorted to the edge of the solar system, their weapons disabled, their communications monitored. As they reached the hyperspace transit point, Captain Chen's image appeared one final time. Admiral Corvallis, you and your species made a fundamental error. You assumed that because we appeared weak, we were weak. You confused patience with inability, restraint with incapacity. We let you think you were the predators in this relationship. The human ships were pulling back, allowing the Krellian fleet to prepare for hyperspace jump. But Admiral Corvallis could see human escorts moving to follow them, staying just outside sensor range. When you return to your high command, Captain Chen continued, tell them this. Humanity has been watching the galaxy for centuries. We've been preparing for this moment since we first detected signs of galactic civilization. We chose to remain hidden until someone was foolish enough to attack us first. You're letting us go, Admiral Corvallis said, confused by the display of mercy. We're letting you deliver a message, General Hawkes corrected. The message is that Earth is under human protection. Sol system is under human protection. And if any species is stupid enough to threaten us again, we won't bother with demonstrations or warnings. We'll simply end the threat. The hyperspace engines engaged, and the Krellian fleet vanished into the void. Behind them, the human ships began their own transformation, some disappearing back into stealth mode, others resuming their disguises as civilian infrastructure. Admiral Corvallis sat in his command, chair as hyperspace swirled around his ship, his mind struggling to process what had happened. He had led the most powerful fleet in Krellian history into what he thought was a simple conquest. Instead, he had discovered that humanity was already the dominant power in the galaxy. They just hadn't bothered to announce it. "Sir," Subcommander Vex said quietly, "what do we tell the High Command?" Admiral Corvallis looked at the tactical display, now showing empty space where moments before human ships had demonstrated technology that redefined the possible. "We tell them the truth. We tell them that we attacked the most dangerous species in the galaxy. We tell them that humanity has been playing a game we didn't even know existed." He paused, his compound eyes reflecting the stars streaming past in hyperspace. "And we tell them that we're very lucky they decided to let us live long enough to deliver the message." In the weeks that followed, word spread throughout the galaxy. The Krellian Dominion, the most feared military power in known space, had been effortlessly defeated by a species that most civilizations had never heard of. The humans had revealed themselves not as newcomers to the galactic stage, but as its hidden architects. Captain Sarah Chen stood once again in the observation deck of Titan Research Station, watching Saturn's rings drift peacefully past the windows. To any observer, it still looked like a simple scientific outpost. But now she knew that observers throughout the galaxy would be looking at humanity with very different eyes. "Captain," came Lieutenant Morrison's voice through her implant, "we're receiving diplomatic requests from 47 different species. They all want to establish formal relations with Earth." Sarah smiled. "Send them the standard response. We're always interested in meeting new friends. But make sure they understand the rules of engagement." The galaxy had a new apex predator, and it was humanity. The difference was that unlike the Krellians, humans had learned patience, restraint, and the value of being underestimated. Earth had become the most dangerous place in the galaxy precisely because it looked so harmless, and in the depths of space, human ships continued their ancient vigil, watching, waiting, and protecting the small blue world that had taught the galaxy a lesson about the difference between appearing weak and actually being weak. The Krellians had learned, too late, that sometimes the prey you choose to hunt has been hunting you all along.